It is Review of Raw. I'm John Pollock, along with Wei Ting, a show that you never know when it's going to pop up, but you know what we're going to discuss. It's Raw from Monday night at the Staples Center in Los Angeles.
What do you mean? Aren't we on at a very consistent time every single
No,
week?
we're all over
Tuesday?
the place.
Oh, okay.
So once you find us, you'll love us.
Yes.
And we're going to go into Raw from Monday night in Los Angeles. The Raw the week after the night after WrestleMania.
Traditionally not as important. You could say the real season premiere, because this is sort of a sign of, when WrestleMania weekend has definitely calmed down and things are at a more normal groove.
This is like when you buy a house and then you have your welcoming party and everyone comes over. It's the big party. And now this is the next night when you got to clean everything up, and this is the place that you have invested so much in. This is what you're stuck with. This is it.
This is when the misery comes in.
This is where the mortgage payments begin, and it's not going to pay off for another year.
You got to clean the place after the party.
A lot of crap.
Yeah. Maybe a leak in the roof.
Yeah.
You know?
All your popular friends that came over, they're not coming back for a long time.
Oh, my God.
And some new faces that just are still here. You don't know who these people are, and you don't really know how much you want them to stick around all that long. Are they really going to find a room in the house?
Okay,
These are all big questions.
I think we're done with this metaphor.
Raw started off with a video, not a video, just a graphic for the late Blackjack Mulligan, who passed away last week. Both of his grandsons were on the show tonight. And then Shane McMahon came out to start the show. Everybody was, I won't even say stunned. I think it's just been a expected agreement of, well, of course, he was back tonight. They announced on Twitter today that due to overwhelming social media support, WrestleMania meant nothing this year. And he's back for another week. And maybe he'll be back another week next week. We did not find out tonight.
Maybe. It was a terribly weak excuse for a storyline that, I think in hindsight it was just bad. Not a good storyline. The lockbox, nothing. Just throw it all out. They didn't want Taker to lose, and yet they didn't want to have Shane essentially lose either. So Shane gets to take over for a second week in a row, but he did state tonight, though, in a segment that this would be the last night, but who knows?
last week.
It means nothing, yes.
I think that this creative period is a real obstacle that people are getting over, and suddenly I think everyone has kind of dumbed down their expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, though, you look at the crowd reaction tonight, Shane, people seem to love him, and they're booking him like he's the, what they promise. He's kind of the...
Well, he was utilized much better tonight than last week. He was all over this show. This was a show that was designed around him making changes,
yes,
making matches, and being a central figure, whereas last week, he was a footnote by the end of the show.
Yeah, so it seems like this might have been the plan the whole time coming out of WrestleMania, but for some reason they didn't want him to beat The Undertaker. And now, there are rumors that Taker might not even come back. So why didn't they just have Shane beat him?
Well, as long as their Wi-Fi doesn't go down next Monday, I think there's a safe shot he will be on a plane going to England for the tapings. So he comes out, and the fans are all chanting for Shane, says he wants to continue from last week with fresh faces and new matches. And he lays out matches for tonight. We're going to have Charlotte against Natalya for the title. He's also starting a tag tournament where the winners will face The New Day. Mentions Roman Reigns, who got booed, and said, there was an opportunity squandered last week. It's like, wow, there's the understatement of the week. And then alludes to Sami Zayn getting another shot tonight. He booked Sami Zayn against AJ Styles, where if Sami Zayn can beat AJ Styles, it will be a three-way at Payback involving Roman Reigns for the WWE title. I really liked... Listen, I in a perfect world, you announce a few things before Raw goes off the air that you have to look forward to next week. We don't get that. But I thought at least at the beginning of the show, you laid out all this stuff to try and keep the viewer for 3 hours. So I like this, just announcing a bunch of stuff that hopefully you'll be interested in.
And having the babyface GM in Shane McMahon, a guy who I think fans legitimately really like, it does feel fresh. And the way they're booking the show, centering it around guys like Cesaro and Owens, really seems to indicate that they are kind of pushing the under-pushed favorites that have been neglected in the past, like those two.
Okay, next was my favorite segment ever. Kevin Owens interrupted him and came out and says he's getting screwed because he hasn't even gotten his rematch for the IC title. And Shane McMahon says, Kevin, you lost at WrestleMania, and you lost in the four-way last week. This line, of all people on this show, to bring up a failure at WrestleMania to affect your current standing, this was high comedy.
Well, Kevin Owens' dad, I don't think, is the owner of the
Unfortunately, Kevin Owens did not get overwhelming social media support for a rematch for the Intercontinental title. But of all lines here, Shane McMahon bringing up his loss at WrestleMania, affecting his standing in the division. Owens then says that he wants this IC title rematch, setting his sights so high. And Shane then says, this may be my last night, but Owens will have to earn a rematch for the IC title and makes a match with Owens and Cesaro for later tonight. In fact, it's going to happen right now, and the winner will get an Intercontinental title shot against The Miz. Mm-hmm. Zack Ryder did not exist this week.
Nor did I think he was really supposed to. That was a big moment that they decided to give him for WrestleMania that he'll have for the rest of his career, but I don't think he was really supposed to be a big part of any storylines coming out of that match.
What a wasted moment then.
No, it wasn't. I mean,
of course it was.
No, well, this was a guy who, has been in the company for a long time, has been complained to be underpushed and, gotten the short end of the stick many a time. So,
but they had no intention of pushing this guy.
No,
this is like a watch after 40 years.
You'll see from this that I think the person to ultimately come out of the whole out of WrestleMania with the IC title run is probably somebody like Cesaro. He wasn't booked on that match, but therefore
that match meant nothing.
Essentially,
you blew a WrestleMania match.
No, you didn't blow it.
Yes, you did,
because it was a good match and you got a great moment for Zack Ryder.
And what does that moment mean? What is a good moment good for?
Yeah, it's good
for a guy that they have no plans for now.
It's good for...
It cheapens real moments.
I don't think so. I don't think it does, because you could have... Your ultimate goal is to get the belt on Cesaro. How do you do that coming out of that match?
Put Cesaro in the match then.
Well, he wasn't
Zack
ready.
Ryder made no sense to me.
Yeah, he wasn't ready.
Have The Miz win it then, if that's what you're going for.
They could have, I guess. They could have had The Miz win it, but I guess that would have meant less. Let's say The Miz wins.
No, Zack Ryder meant the least.
I don't think so. If Zack Ryder winning gets people talking.
This guy didn't fit onto a 195-minute show. This guy, one of your focused people at WrestleMania, and he doesn't even get onto Raw this week.
I don't think
they're not going anywhere with him. He's got no program.
I don't think that's a problem. I don't think there's room for a Zack Ryder.
Well, maybe Darren Young could have won the Battle Royal and then just disappears as well. I mean, this to me is just, if you're going to put the guy over, great. But they had no plan for him beyond 24 hours. He's right back to the beginning.
I thought that was really the whole point of it, is just to give him those 24 hours.
Each week on Review of Raw, pay attention for the secret question. You can tweet the answer at Law Radio every week for your chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees. Kevin Owens took on Cesaro. They had a lengthy match. Cesaro came out with his tearaway suit and a Cesaro section t-shirt, and his left shoulder was taped up, and the shoulder would be the focus of the match, going over his torn rotator cuff from last November. Miz and Maurice, at first they were standing backstage before they realized this would be multiple segments, and then they cut back and they had taken a seat. Very smart on their part. How many people are just always standing forever back there? Mm-hmm. You have a couch, you have a chair, take a seat. These are long matches in the 3-hour era. Owens attacked the bad shoulder, ran him into the turnbuckle. Cesaro came back with uppercuts using the right arm. Cesaro then hit a gut wrench off the turnbuckle. Owens rolled through on a high cross into a crossface onto the bad shoulder, and Cesaro battled to the ropes.
I love that Owens pulled out the crossface here. It's a move that we never see him usually do, and so you might be wondering why he's doing it, but it worked specifically to target the shoulder in this match, so yes. I thought it was great.
Cesaro then reversed a pin into the sharpshooter, And then we had a rope break. Owens super kicked him, hit a big frog splash for a 2 count, which got a big reaction when Cesaro kicked out. Then Cesaro avoids the pop-up powerbomb, hits a spinning uppercut off the ropes, and then the Cesaro swing, but his shoulder gives out. Owens goes for another pop-up powerbomb. It's reversed with a Hurricane Rana. He rolls through, and Cesaro hits the neutralizer to pin Owens, and Cesaro is the #1 contender for the Miz's Intercontinental title.
Yeah, I love this match. I thought it was a great showcase match for Cesaro, building off the momentum of his comeback last week. And there was a lot of comedy, actually, at the beginning of this match where, the two of them were exchanging headlocks, and Cesaro does the stupidest-looking rolling headlock switching spot that, it looks so dumb, but it really got over with this audience to the point where it almost felt like an indie show in that they were very playful and loose with each other before getting, into the real.
There's the spot with JBL's hat where he got knocked over.
So all that stuff, it looked like the two of them were having a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun watching this match. So, to me, it tells me that Cesaro is the person who is destined for the IC title coming out of this whole thing over the past several weeks.
Charlotte's backstage with Ric Flair, and she's complaining about being a victim last week and says she should be on shows like Legends with JBL, not defending the title tonight. Flair calls Shane a big shot. They want the authority back, and Dr. Phil wanders in to boos from the LA crowd. And he compliments Charlotte and the bond with her father, but says Rick is now holding her back and corrupting her, imparting his dirty tricks onto her, and she needs to stand on her own 2 feet. She is not a victim. She is a victimizer. And then they go to leave, and he says, yeah, walk away. Walk away. And then he outwooed Ric Flair.
I thought Dr. Phil was actually used very effectively here. When they announced that he was going to be on, I thought we were done with all these guest GM spots.
We didn't get an awful segment.
No, I thought this segment was actually good. I thought this was a celebrity cameo that was used effectively. It gave the rub to Charlotte to put her into a celebrity segment, and it was almost a caricature of Dr. Phil put into a situation with Ric Flair that helped further the storyline. Charlotte now is playing much more of a spoiled brat character, whining and complaining to her father, and I really like it. I think it defines her character a lot more, and it gives Ric Flair a bigger role in the whole unit.
Owens complains to Shane backstage and says what happens to Sami Zayn tonight is on his pretty gray hair. And Shane then says he's going to have him escorted out of the building to not get involved with Sami Zayn's match with AJ tonight. The New Day then came out with new Booty-O's t-shirts and says the tag division, like a game of NBA Jam, is on fire with all of the teams, and this tournament is sponsored by Booty-O's, which leads to our brackets for this tournament.
These brackets were amazing. They
spent, I guarantee you, more time on this graphics pack than they probably did the majority of the ideas on Raw. They probably had to have this.
Why would you say that? This was a good episode of Raw.
I didn't say this was a bad episode of Raw.
You're saying they spent more time. You're insinuating that
I'm insinuating that they took time on these brackets.
So you're saying Raw was good, but this graphics package was that much better.
I'm just saying, Way, that this was an idea that they clearly had in advance.
Okay, sure.
If you think that Raw is nailed down on the Wednesday before and they have everything locked in, you're crazy.
Well, I didn't say that either, but
this is a show that goes through extreme changes the day of.
All right, fine.
That is all I'm trying to say.
This graphics package is good.
I will not insult your episode of Raw here.
Anyway,
I was trying to compliment the graphics pack. Is that okay?
So was I, but you were doing it in a way that put down the rest of the episode.
Don't
which I don't
read
think
into my tone. I was trying to be complimentary here, and you are just you're playing Dr. Ting here.
This brackets graphic is awesome. A unicorn runs into a box of Booty-O's, knocking the box of Booty-O's over, spilling into a rainbow that turns into this bracket. It is the greatest tournament brackets animation we have ever seen.
So our brackets are the Usos against Slater and Axel, Golden Truth, which are officially a team now, against the Vaudevillains, Enzo and Cass against the Ascension, and the Lucha Dragons against the Dudley Boys. And kicking things off, well, this tournament didn't start off on a good note. It was the Lucha Dragons against the Dudley Boys, and we come back from break with the match already in progress, and Kalisto is down on the floor, out, and wouldn't be part of this match at all. They showed the replay, and he took a back body drop a la Taka Michinoku at the Royal Rumble in 2000, landing face first, he did get up from that and then took a clothesline from Devon, and we have not gotten an update as of yet, but he was out on the floor for this entire match, and Sin Cara had to work it.
This seemed to me like it was planned. I mean, why would Devon?
It was
knock
a
him down
spot
again?
during the commercial.
Yeah, that I don't get. But to me, in a way, it served to protect Kalisto to not have him wrestle the match.
I took it as him being actually injured here because it really didn't play into things all that well. Sin Cara had to work through all of this. He made a comeback. Bubba's just relentless, trash-talking him. Sin Cara hit a quebrada to a standing Devon. Then there was a blind tag, and they messed up the 3D and had to reset and then hit it at 3:15 as the Dudleys got the win. And Bubba just stood over Kalisto, and they went back to the updated graphics package with the Dudleys advancing. So we'll probably know Tuesday if this was legit or not, but it looked like the guy was hurt.
Yeah, I thought the match achieved, I mean, despite, whatever that was, I thought it achieved what it needed to. In fact, it kept your U.S. champion Kalisto protected from the finish.
That could have been done with Sin Cara.
Getting the pin?
Yeah.
But saying Kalisto not being involved in the match, leading to them losing the match, makes Kalisto look that much more important.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Perhaps.
And I thought Bubba in particular really stood out here with his heel work. He's been doing a lot of yelling in the middle of the match, so I think he and Kevin Owens are like two guys that are probably going to influence a lot of people, especially a lot of heels, up-and-coming heels, to start doing that themselves.
Did you watch any of SmackDown last week?
No.
They had Jericho and Kevin Owens team together. They had great chemistry together.
Cool.
People have already dubbed them Jericho. KO. Log on to FightNetwork.com daily for podcasts from Live Audio Wrestling covering the entire industry on a daily basis. Enzo and Cass come out afterwards, and Enzo goes through his opening routine. Bubba calls them and every other team young punks. I don't know if that applies to the Golden Truth. And says he paved the way for guys like them. They only exist because of them. Enzo refers to Devin and says he exists because his parents got it on. And then Cass takes the microphone and says, if they in fact did pave the way, they need to step to the side of the road and put their hard hat on and get back to work. And I would suggest the same for Big Cass and his...
No.
Well, he had to follow Enzo's promo last week.
True.
And that was a tough promo to follow.
But I'll say this week, I thought Cass actually sounded better than Enzo. I didn't think Enzo really had that memorable of a performance this week.
No, this was hardly last week's introduction.
No, and I also attribute that to the crowd not being as familiar with him this week as the crowd last week. And so they're still educating this crowd with that little intro off the top. But I'll say, still a good, showing from the two of them. They immediately feel like two very hot top contenders in the division.
Big Cass, what a tan on this guy. Main roster call-up tan.
It's part of the gimmick, isn't it?
Of course. Owens is escorted out of the building, and we actually never saw him again.
Yeah, that was actually surprising. This usually telegraphs a run-in.
So when a babyface escorts you out, that means it's permanent.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns comes out, and the crowd is booing him, and he says, it's all good, and he repeats his catchphrase. He's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy.
It's a very good line.
But it's being said a lot.
Yeah, they're using it. They're very much...
It's like every WWE catchphrase, that it's not so much an organic one. It's one that they will remind you of at every chance.
Well, I mean, that's sort of the nature of a catchphrase, isn't it? But yes, it can get tiresome very fast.
He says he's defending the title against Styles at Payback. He respects what Styles and Zayn have done, and they've won championships all over the world, but they have not won the championship. And Sheamus, Rusev, and Alberto Del Rio come out. They are not happy about being left out of last week's four-way. Rusev says, you think you're the guy? Good for you, because I am a man. And Reigns challenges all three to come to the ring. And then the lights go out, and the Wyatts appear, fighting off the League of Nations. And then Shane McMahon comes out and says he loves seeing Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt getting along so well together that they are going to team tonight against two members of the League of Nations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they got Roman now playing, the embracing the negative reaction that he's getting and turning into part of his character, like as, like the John Cena guy, someone who's out to prove the haters wrong. And he spoke, clearly and confidently this week, but he still comes across like a guy who's trying to find his voice.
Very much so. Watching this Wyatt's turn as well. I mean, we were talking on Sunday night about at WrestleMania and if you're trying to satisfy two audiences and how it can so easily be done with both. And just watching this segment here, could you have imagined the scene at WrestleMania if the League of Nations, they get blown out by Michaels, Mankind, and Austin, and we get a segment where they're furious backstage and they are going to leave their mark on WrestleMania. So when The Rock is out, it's the League of Nations that comes out, led by Rusev, who's got that history with The Rock from that segment in Brooklyn. And then the lights go out, and it's the Wyatts. And they do this exact same deal. And they fight off the League of Nations, and there's The Rock standing tall with the Wyatts. And that's the babyface turn. Why? We tune into Monday the next night because we really have not got a reason at all for their turn, but I'm not against it at all.
I think
think of that idea.
That'd be great.
Rather than what they did with The Rock and the Wyatts.
Yeah.
If that's the direction you were going.
Instead, they gave that role to John Cena, who's a guy who definitely doesn't need it. So that would have been great, John.
You could have easily worked Cena into that show in another way. So anyway, that's our tag match for tonight in the main event. They did run a spot for Shinsuke Nakamura's television debut. Well, it's all on the network, so I guess it really is all the same, but appearing on this Wednesday's show.
Yeah.
So it was good for them to promote it. We got the first of two spots for the Colognes. This first one was identical to last week. Sniffing.
I still don't get it yet.
No, I don't think anyone has.
Sniffing flowers.
That's where we're at, and later they're going to take a swim.
Okay.
Dr. Phil comes out to be ringside for our next match, and Byron interviews him and Phil wants to see if she's going to live up to the title of champion rather than playing it cheap.
Ooh.
Playing it cheap. Charlotte and Natalya for the women's title. They did bring up Brie's retirement at the beginning of this on the commentary. Very good start to this match. Natalya is going after her leg for a heel hook like she was Ian Entwistle on Sunday in Croatia.
My.
I'm sure she was watching the fight with Alejandro Perez.
Yeah, maybe. It was a really cool spin under into this ankle lock. It was really nice.
Charlotte slams her and then is in Natalya's guard. Natalya is then working for an arm bar, gets a rope break. Charlotte then goes to the floor, and she's constantly getting one up by Natalya, and she'd go to the floor. Then Charlotte blocks an armbar into the figure four. That is broken. And then she applies the sharpshooter to Natalya as JBL states that Uncle Brett is throwing a brick at the TV right now, which was probably the action he was committing during WrestleMania after his review.
Absolutely, yeah. He didn't like WrestleMania at all.
No, he did not.
This was the second sharpshooter of the night, but they were both in reference to Hearts, so I thought it was cool.
They are somewhat linked.
Yeah.
Natalya breaks the hold. Natalya then ducks a shot, hits a release German, a discus clothesline. She goes for the sharpshooter. Charlotte stops her, and then Charlotte comes back with an overhead suplex, climbs to the top, misses a great-looking moonsault, and then Natalya applies the sharpshooter. The crowd's going nuts here. Rick is trying to climb in, and then right as Charlotte is going to tap, he pulls the referee out for the disqualification finish. Dr. Phil says he's very disappointed, thought she could be someone women could be proud of. Byron says, I'm sorry you had to see that. And he does give the qualifier that he is proud of the women's division and how they will cement their place in sports history.
And this was all we had of Dr. Phil for the whole show. I mean, I don't know what he was out here to promote. He didn't seem to plug anything.
Our Phil.
This was a great match between these two.
I was fine with the finish because
totally
sets up the rematch. I'm fine with TV matches like this.
I was surprised that they put this match on TV because I thought they were going to save it for the pay-per-view. But seeing the finish, you can understand it. I thought this match was great, even better than the Roadblock match. I think Natalya had just a great showing tonight. Especially, I love a lot of the submissions and the jiu-jitsu stuff she's been employing in her moveset lately. And it was also really great to hear the crowd's progression from, kind of at the beginning not really being that into it, towards the end when they really got into the figure four and the sharpshooter and all the near falls. So I really enjoyed this match, and I'm excited for a rematch, hopefully at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I hope they watch Nakamura Sakuraba, Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
Emulate that. Big knee spot for payback. This coming Wednesday on Review Away, we are taking a look back at the entire career of Shinsuke Nakamura. We will review select matches from his history, including his first Tokyo Dome main event against Yoshihiro Takayama, as well as matches with Tetsuya Naito, Zack Sabre Jr., Kevin Steen, and much more. It's a whole look at Shinsuke Nakamura this Wednesday at liveaudiowrestling.com. Subscribe for free on iTunes. Renee interviews Sami Zayn backstage. He talks about being the underdog. Owens tried to take his opportunity away from him, but he has heart and he has soul, and he's ready for tonight. Styles walks in, says he was fighting just like Zayn. Now they're both in the WWE, and he's not going to let him get his #1 contendership. The Usos against Curtis Axel and Heath Slater in the tag tournament was next. What a wacky layout of a match this was.
Yeah.
The Social Outcasts got the advantage on Jay forever. They're making frequent tags, and then they give up on the heat and just go to the floor. They run around celebrating.
For the boat train. That was the idea, is that they get distracted by their own stupidity.
So Jay's lying there and just rolls over, tags in Jimmy, and Jimmy rolls up Slater.
They were distracted by their
themselves.
own boat train.
This was their own distraction finish, which at least is it's a new chapter on the distraction finish.
I think it's really, I don't know what they're doing with the Usos lately, but I think they've been really, messed up over the past couple weeks with between this and the Dudleys feud, which I didn't think helped them at all. Everything that
they have the curse of a WrestleMania victory.
Yes, perhaps. But I think they've certainly been taken down a couple notches, especially with all the debuting tag teams that are around that are far hotter right now.
Which led to Karl Anderson and Doc Gallows running out and attacking Jimmy. They hit the magic killer on him. Cole noted, "We heard they were coming," from their sources. Yeah. And then Karl clotheslined Jay on the floor, sent him into the barricade, and then into the steps. Both guys looking in great shape. Yeah. Very good reaction here in LA.
He was referred to as Luke Gallows here.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You're right.
And, I guess you could understand why they waited to debut them this week as opposed to last, because of all the congestion.
I still would have waited a few weeks, but I can see wanting to get them on there. This was a crowd that's certainly in LA. They want them probably on the European tour, so I understand why, but it's just a lot of bodies that they have introduced in a very short time period.
And you can throw in Sami Zayn as part of that, too, who recently, is really starting to still trying to get the audience to know
Sami
him.
Zayn is, 100%. You throw in that.
And then returning Cesaro.
And forget, your Emma levels. I mean, there was very little room even to get all the people. We had no Sasha Banks even on this show, so it's a lot of people that they are trying to focus on at the moment. But
so Anderson and Gallows are debut tonight. There's a light Bullet Club chant, which I think Gallows actually tried to acknowledge into the crowd. It'll be really interesting to see how they package these two, because they're coming in as heels right now. So, I don't think they'll necessarily pair them with AJ. Maybe they'll just completely start them anew as a brand new tag team.
The Miz and Maurice, they'll be on ESPN tomorrow night. Miz is backstage with Maurice, and Maurice is complaining to a PA, stating there are no blue M&Ms that are to be in their container here, and that Miz does not drink domestic water, and asks, "Are we farmers? Do we?" I like that line. Do we look like farmers? Yeah. JoJo wanders in, asks about Zack Ryder. He had no answer for Zack either. He had no explanation. And his upcoming match with Cesaro. And Maurice says no one invited her in here, calls her a Miz groupie, and Miz says he is the kryptonite for the Swiss Superman, and then does a second and third take on the line when Cesaro appears in his suit and says he's going to have a red carpet for his uppercuts at Payback, and then Miz drinks the water, and Maurice freaks out, screaming, "It's domestic!"
Yeah. It was funny.
I enjoyed Maurice here.
Yeah, I think adding Maurice to Miz's act, the movie star act, kind of freshens it up. And I think she's actually very good in this role. So
I thought she was going to yell at Cesaro in French, and then he was going to respond.
That would be great, too. But Miz starting to do this retake thing where he's doing retakes of his answers into the mic. I think it's awesome. I think, you can probably tell he probably got the idea from watching maybe like, you know, people backstage constantly doing retakes. Maybe himself. Maybe he was watching
their promos.
Maybe he was watching Rosa Mendez on Total Divas doing retakes, trying to do her social media thing, and got this idea. And I think it's hilarious. Cesaro, you know, I don't know I know this tearaway suit is like, you know,
he's a Secret Service agent.
Funny gimmick, but it looks ridiculous.
They're gonna sell those. They're gonna sell those.
Him and the sunglasses with the band tied on. He looks like a cheap CIA agent, and I don't know.
I feel a year from now we're gonna have him and Alberto Del Rio as like a Men in Black team or something.
Okay, whatever. But I don't know if it really works for him, you know, for what he's currently doing right now. I don't think fans are necessarily cheering him because of you know, how he looks anyway. But I don't think it really helps.
Well, this certainly kind of slots him at a certain spot, at least for this return, because, you know.
But the IC title is good on a guy like that, a guy who can work, you know, a guy who can have very impressive matches every single week. You can argue that he's ready for the main event, absolutely, but I think there could be worse.
The Law has launched its own YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to now. Simply go and search for The Law Live Audio Wrestling on YouTube, and you can get all of our videos, including classic editions of Review Away, brand new Review of Raw episodes, and the return of Ask Away, where Wei Ting and I answer your questions. Go search for The Law Live Audio Wrestling, subscribe today, and catch all of Live Audio Wrestling's videos.
AJ Styles and Sami Zayn. Byron brought up that they had a match prior. They did do a four-way in PWG back in 2005. Each is trying to get the advantage at the start. It picked up with Zayn hitting a tope con hilo to the floor. They went through a commercial break. Styles was in control, hit a pump handle into a gut buster. The Ushigoroshi, the unidentified spot on Raw.
On SmackDown, though.
SmackDown, it is a different name. Or its proper name. Styles Clash is countered with a cradle for a 2 count, tornado DDT for a 2 count. Zayn is continually going for covers, hits a blue thunder bomb for a great near fall. Styles then rolls into the calf crusher. Zayn fights his way to the rope. Then Zayn teases a superplex. Styles turns it into a sunset flip powerbomb, and Zayn was trying to land on his feet and like crashed with his head upon landing.
It still looked fine, though. It didn't look like he messed it up. Like, it looked like he dodged it.
I mean, he kept his footing, but I mean, it was a very close call the way if you watched it slow as he was going to land there, and just backed his way into the corner, went for the haluva kick, but it was Styles who caught him with a boot, and then the phenomenal forearm, and Styles gets the win, and it stays a singles match.
I'm not a fan of that phenomenal forearm as a finisher. I think he's got at least 10 more moves that are cooler than that, but I think it'll get over if they keep booking it strong, so I don't mind it so much. I thought a very good match as well. I mean, it's hard to tell if this or the Owens-Cesaro match was better, but on a Raw where you get these two matches plus that Charlotte-Natalya match, I think it's a good episode of Raw. It's really nice now to see, you know, AJ Styles having several months in, the crowd starting to react to all of his signature spots. Like the calf crusher got a big reaction tonight. And I thought Zayn obviously did very well as well. I thought that, you know, he lost tonight, but Owens lost as well, so it kind of puts the two of them on a similar loser's wavelength.
Who's the real loser at Payback?
But you know what? I prefer them having both those guys lose than to have, you know, some bullshit finish with neither guy losing and having a draw the whole time. So I don't mind this. I expected a run-in from Owens, though, but we didn't get that.
Seth Green was shown in the crowd. Styles and Zayn are backstage. Styles is consoling Zayn, and Shane walks up. He says he loved the match and called it awesome. And then Zayn and Styles shook hands.
I think Zayn is like tremendous he's a very good actor in pro wrestling, I think. He was able to just express a lot of disappointment and emotion just simply in the way he looked.
Chris Jericho comes out for the highlight reel and tells the people to shut up. He has the biggest star in WWE history tonight on the show. Zero reaction to that line. This crowd was not even kidding itself that anyone was coming out. He says it's himself. And he started to interview himself, going over his accolades when he was interrupted by Dean Ambrose, who brought out a potted plant, which was actually a callback to the highlight reel in January when him and Roman Reigns were guests on the show, and Dean gave him the first potted plant. Oh. So he replaced it with a different one this time. So he hands Jericho First, a California speeding ticket, and then a note from Shane McMahon that announces the show has been canceled and replaced by the Ambrose Asylum, with Dean taking over. So Dean starts asking him questions about his scarf, which Jericho says costs $750. Jericho says he makes his own rules and then threatens to bury Dean Ambrose and tells Dean to take his ass out of the ring, and it leads to Dean hitting the dirty deeds on Jericho. I'll say this way, of all these programs that we're outlining here that you have figured for Payback, this looks like a really solid card on paper.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean...
In Chicago, too.
You'll have Zayn and Owens. You'll have...
Charlotte and Natalya.
Yep.
I think Reigns and Styles is going to be really good.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that,
Cesaro and Miz will be... That'll be fine.
I think it'll be good, too. I think it'll be great. So, yeah, definitely, I'm looking forward to the next show. Maybe more so than I was looking forward to WrestleMania.
Probably Anderson, Gallows, and the Usos.
Yeah. This segment, though, did not impress me. I mean, I'm a fan of both these guys, but I think this segment...
This was almost WrestleMania.
It could have been good on... not good on paper, but I thought it was a bit of a dud in execution. I didn't think the fans really reacted too well to Jericho interviewing himself, doing that whole thing. It probably would have played out better if he had done something like maybe pulled out a mirror and had two cameras, one on the mirror and one on him, doing that back and forth. Probably would have played out better on TV. And Ambrose, I'm just not a fan of this kind of corny PG Dean Ambrose, who is essentially now the props guy. He's the guy who comes out carrying props in his little red wagon. He's Gallagher. Okay, and he comes out and kind of does all these cute things, like puts the sign on top of the TV. I'm not a big fan of it.
Comparison to Gallagher in 2016 is never a good thing.
Carrot Top, whoever.
Well, no, I'm saying Gallagher is a fine one. I'm just saying you are not trying to convey any praise. This coming Sunday night on the Law Live Audio Wrestling, we will be joined by one of the latest WWE Hall of Famers, Stan the Lariat Hansen, who will be chatting with Dan the Mouth Labransky. Plus, we'll welcome Dave Meltzer to the show, all of the news of the week, your phone calls, and much more. Tune in Sunday night, 11 Eastern on TSN 1050 Toronto, TSN 1410 Vancouver, and live at liveaudiowrestling.com. Golden Truth against the Vaudevillains and Enzo and Cass against the Ascension are what is coming up on SmackDown this week.
The Vaudevillains might be a SmackDown exclusive team.
They are, for everyone talking about, I mean, these two, it's going to be very easy for them to get lost in the shuffle. I thought Morrow did a really good job of calling their match, whereas I think it's a plus that they are on SmackDown now as opposed to Raw, where I think... I mean, they have a very unique act and one that can very quickly just become a prelim act, and it might end up there anyway. But I thought for at least a first impression, I mean, Morrow was just busting out all these old references and really complimenting the gimmick, which takes some research to really put over.
Cool.
And that was done last week, I thought. Truth is in the locker room. Goldust walks in. Remember the audition they set up last week? Well, the audition is the tournament, i.e., they didn't have any idea for it tonight. So Dr. Phil walks in, more booze. He gives up and doesn't even give them advice and walks away. And that was our final appearance by Dr. Phil. Apollo Crews, he sold for Adam Rose for quite a bit, came back with an enziguri, spinning sit-out powerbomb, 3.5 minutes.
I thought the match kind of sucked. I mean, I think the appeal of Apollo Crews at this point is to see him do some very flashy moves. I didn't really get much of that. In fact, there was one spot that was completely confusing where he really had to struggle to execute a vertical suplex on Adam Rose.
Yeah, he was blocking it to hit his own.
And I don't get it, because Crews should be a guy who's squashing Adam Rose. He shouldn't be struggling to deliver a basic maneuver.
He sold a lot in this match.
So I don't get it.
Another Cologne's vignette. They say the water is never polluted. These suck.
Yeah.
Then we got a video package on Baron. Okay, I was dancing around. There are way too many new people here. Like, I can't even keep track of them all here. We went from Apollo Crews in a nothing match to a Cologne's vignette who are coming. The Vaudevillains couldn't even get onto this show. And then we have Baron Corbin, who we shoehorn with a video package here.
But to me, I thought that was a good thing. I thought it made the show fresh.
I just think it's... Okay, in 3 weeks, I'm already feeling it now, like where these people are. You can't make everybody a priority, and therefore, a lot of guys, their first impression is just that they are going to be at a certain level, and suddenly you're locked into that.
Well, I mean, I don't know what I think. Okay, you have Apollo Crews, who seems like he's very much kind of not really in any prominent programs. He's just kind of squashing guys, or at least he's supposed to be. You have Baron Corbin, who I guess should be doing the same thing, but he's got a program with Ziggler, so he's kind of more a little bit higher on the card than he is. I feel like there are guys in different slots, but to me, it actually makes the show more interesting to see how they're going to treat all these new guys.
Bray cut a promo. He says he despises what Roman stands for, but they have a holy bond that can never be broken, and says you can trust him in his best Jake.
Man, that Baron Corbin video, he cut a promo last week that sounded very scripted, that a lot of people were criticizing for being just not very good. But the way they cut that package together, it made you feel like CM Punk was cutting that promo.
That's
magic of
the
editing.
Strength of the WWE. Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt against Alberto Del Rio and Sheamus was the main event. This was late in the show. I thought the third hour you were feeling it, so a tough spot to be in, but I thought these guys, by the end, this turned out to be quite a good tag match. Reigns and Bray are working together. Crowd just wants none of Roman Reigns. They attack Sheamus in the corner. Bray tags himself in. Del Rio hits a double foot stomp to him, and then the tag is made to Reigns. More boos as he fires up on Sheamus. He calls for the Superman punch, and Sheamus just bails to the floor. Del Rio kicks him in the ribs on the apron, and then Sheamus is pounding on his chest. Reigns is placed in the Tree of Woe, and then Del Rio climbs up, and Reigns lifts himself up, as Cole states, with that great core strength, and tosses Del Rio off the turnbuckle. Then we get a tag to Bray, who fires up Uranagi to Del Rio. Really got the crowd into things. I mean, they are ready to take to this guy as a babyface, and I am all for going this direction with the guy because we had seen where the Wyatts were as heels, and it's almost like the same with Reigns, where it's like the Wyatts had got very stagnant as heels, and the babyface run, it's an easy transition for these guys.
I wasn't sure how it would play out, but to see Bray work as a babyface here,
he hasn't changed a whole lot.
His style really works. In fact, like there are things that he does that always got big reactions anyway, like that back bend in the corner, the signal for Sister Abigail. They're all like things a babyface would naturally do, and he also works fast enough for that babyface style too.
The Sister Abigail gets blocked, and he then hits a flying elbow to Del Rio. Reigns clotheslines Sheamus to the floor, comes off the steps and into a shot to the body by Sheamus. Rusev then appears and nails Bray, and Del Rio hits a backstabber. Bray kicks out. The lights go out, and Strowman and Harper appear, taking out Rusev on the floor. Bray then blocks the setup for the armbreaker by Del Rio, hits the Sister Abigail, and right as he's going for the cover, Sheamus tries to make the save, and Reigns just spears him right at the count of 3 to prevent the save, and they get the win at 11:07. I thought a good tag match that these two had, and the highlight I thought was Bray Wyatt in this match.
Definitely. It's a fresh direction for him and the whole Wyatt group. It was a good main event. I am still confused at how they're pushing Roman Reigns, though. So they're at a point now where they're basically encouraging people to boo him, and they're definitely taken to it. The matches he's wrestling in are continually of him as a babyface, and I just don't know how it really works. To me, I actually found myself.
He doesn't feel like the top star in the company when I watch it.
Well, if you look at the negative reaction, he certainly gets the biggest negative reaction, seemingly, of everybody on the show. But how they're going to use that, it's very interesting. I don't know. I mean, I guess this has sort of been the John Cena, experiment for the past several years. But why they're deciding to continue with that experiment with Roman Reigns, I'm not really sure. I still don't think he's the guy, but I think he's gonna stay the course until they change those plans.
So that was Raw. I mean, some very good wrestling on this show, and clearly you can see the programs for Payback. And unlike a lot of years where it's just instant rematches, there's a lot of fresh matchups that they're going towards at Payback, and that's certainly a positive of some new faces that are appearing. And you look at Payback, and the atmosphere should be great in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And as we mentioned, I think there's a lot of interesting combinations Jericho and Ambrose, I'm looking forward to the match.
Didn't they just run Chicago?
Yeah,
Raw?
they were just there recently for Raw, so it's a very quick turnaround.
Why are they so lucky that they get all these shows?
Well, Northeast does well for them for big shows.
What do you expect Bray to be placed here? Because it looks like they're doing something with Roman.
Yeah, you almost think it's going to be them in the League of Nations, the Wyatts and the League of Nations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They could do that. I mean, we've outlined there's a lot of matches tentative that you have for Payback, fitting all these people on the card that probably there's not going to be slots for everybody as you get deep into Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, I guess. It looks like it's a good enough card, though. Do you think we have time to run it down?
No, we really don't, because we only have...
Never mind.
We're winding things down. But we can quickly preview what's coming up on Wednesday on Review Away, because we are taking a look at select matches from the career of Shinsuke Nakamura, which was your suggestion.
Yeah, basically I got really sick of watching WWE shows over the past week, and I wanted to watch more Shinsuke Nakamura matches anyway, so why not
like
use
Ultimate
that?
Crush.
Why not use that as an opportunity? Yes, and so we'll be looking at a ton of matches from his career, including his MMA bouts, which I don't know if a lot of people have actually seen. So it was a lot of fun watching that, including matches with Brock Lesnar and Kevin Owens.
Yes, a surprising match if you have not watched Brock Lesnar's New Japan run. So that's coming up on Wednesday. We'll take a look at the career of Shinsuke Nakamura. And, of course, the Law is Up from Sunday night. All of it available at liveaudiowrestling.com. You can subscribe for free on iTunes. And we are here each and every week on the Fight Network, recapping Raw. For Wei Ting, I'm John Pollock, and we'll speak with you next time.